Welcome, Aimee Boxall, to the Pruskop podcast. We are going through the monthly market stats for February that just passed here. Aimee is also a multifamily and residential realtor, just like myself. We will go through the numbers of these stats, and then afterwards, we're going to be talking about stories, boots on the ground stories of what us realtors are seeing with our clients. Aimee is going to talk a lot about Sherwood Park because she's had success in that vicious territory right now. And then I'm also going to be speaking about the changes to CMHC MLI Select that's been throwing a wrench in a lot of people's deals so that you're in the loop with the recent changes. So I'm going to share my screen here. Perfect. Can you see that?
I can now, yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so we're going to start with the average sale price for all residential. Do you want to take it away, Aimee?
Okay, yes. For all residential, average sale price for month over month, so just in the last month or so, it's raised 2.6% and a massive 10.5% year over year, which is quite incredible for a blanket of all the residential.
And then detached homes, which is what most people prefer, month over month, we're still going up a little bit at 1.2%, but year over year, just about 12%. The average price for a detached being 568K, and then semi-detached.
Semi-detached, we saw, so those would be like your typical duplexes. The average is 421,000, which has gone down month over month just by 0.1%, but a rise in 0.9%. So not as much growth as the detached homes, but still seeing some normal appreciation.
Yeah, and actually, when I was looking at these numbers, I was surprised by the townhouses here. They actually declined month over month by 3.5%, but still up 8.9%. I believe last month townhouses were up 16% year over year, and now it's saying 9% for this month. So townhouses are cooling off a little bit, but I know working with my clients that they're still very interested in them.
And month over month can have so many variables as well. Like the townhomes, there are a lot of new build townhomes. So maybe last month there may have been like a spike in new build townhomes that had finished completion and sold off, hence newer build being a little bit more pricey. And maybe now we're at a truer average than
Mm,
last month. We'd have to look deeper into the specs, I think.
that's a good point. And then lastly, apartments.
Apartment condos were up 7.3% month over month to 217,000 average price, which is general a 19.9% increase year over year. And
What?
that is, yeah, that is not typical. I will say that going more into the details, maybe some of those were newer builds. Maybe they were first time being sold on market, like newer apartments, but I still believe that pre-existing ones have seen some great appreciation over the years, depending on area.
And then the next tier, so we do have just shy of 3,000 more listings this month than we had last month, which I'm sure you can confirm. It feels really good to finally have options for your clients to look at.
Yeah, it's such a relief, honestly, like something. And anytime we just say if it doesn't work out this week, if there's something that isn't quite right, I'm like Tuesday, Wednesday, there's gonna be some more. So
Yeah, like I know myself in December or January when I was working with clients, it's like these are all of our options. If you want to buy right now, you're gonna have to settle for one of them, which doesn't feel good, but those are the cards we were dealt. So now being able to say, as you said, well, just wait a week. If this one's not the right fit, the right one will come along. We do have more options coming available.
It's still not quite enough inventory, but it's a lot better than it was a few weeks ago for sure.
And even though we have more listings, the demand for these listings is also raising. So the heat's on for sure. So in
Yeah.
total, there's a little over 4,000 available listings as of February. And then do you want to explain this down here, Aimee?
Yeah, so this year overall, we're seeing less days on market compared to last year. So for detached homes, we're seeing 9 days less on market compared to last year. For semi-detached, do the math, I guess that's 15. Am I doing the math right? 15 days less.
Yep.
and 20, ooh, I need glasses.
28 to
17
45.
less. Yeah, 17, 28 days compared to 45 last year for townhomes, 48 days on market compared to 65 last year for apartment condos, and then all residential averaged out 37 right now, average days on market compared to 50 last year, which is significantly less. And then, of course, you're seeing the peak of the most desirable homes are typically gone. We all know this. They're gone within a few days. They'd be lucky to be lasting more than 5 days before being pending. We
So
got to be on the ball.
looking at the all residential down there, having last year the average would be 50 days on market. This year it's 37. So a lot of the time, new buyers or buyers who haven't purchased in a while, they're like, I need time to think about it. You have 2 weeks less to think about it this year than you did last year if you want to lock that listing down.
And then it's also not just the time to lock it down, but those pending times.
Hmm.
Sellers are able to be a little choosier with the condition periods that they're allowing the buyers.
Yeah.
The buyers have a little less time to waive those conditions to settle finances. So that just means being prepared ahead of time before you even start shopping is even more important now than it was in the past. It was always important to be pre-approved and have everything set up. Now it's crucial. Otherwise, it could cause you a deal. You're not going to be given 2 weeks condition period for most residential homes right now, unfortunately,
I
especially if
have
it's very
a
desirable.
story about this. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Ooh, yeah.
So there was this off-market lot. It was priced low. I confirmed the seller or the selling agent for that listing. She's never sold land before. So it was listed for 340 in the West End, I think West Jasper Place. And I called her. I'm like, "Hey, are you doing a review date for offers or is it first come, first serve?" She's like, "Well, first come, first serve." It's like, "Kate, if I bring you an offer at list price unconditional today, can we lock this down today?" She's like, "I think my seller would be stupid not to." I was like, "Sweet, let's do it." I texted my buyers. I'm
Hmm.
like, "Hey, it's not guaranteed yet, but the stars may have aligned for us. Let's go." We were so excited. So we submitted that offer, and then the seller pushed the offer review date twice. So at first it was first come, first serve. We offered on a Saturday morning. And then the selling agent was like, "Oh, the seller actually wants to push review until Monday." And we're like, "Oh, okay, that sucks, but fine." And then on Monday, I was like, "Hey, what's going on here? Are we ready to proceed? Like, we gave you what you asked for. We're ready to go." And then they text me back saying, "Oh, actually, we're pushing offer review until Friday." And I was like,
Mm.
"You've got to be kidding me." But
Yeah.
they have the power to do that. And it's smart on
Yeah.
their end, but it sucks on the buying side.
Yeah. Just tell me what you want. What do you want?
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to be blunt like that. You did end up, I think you told me the story and you had to ask them, like, okay, what do I need to do? Was it that
Hmm.
story? What do we need to do to allow the seller to continue thing?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
that,
I went
yeah.
through everything of what can we do to assure this? Like, we can put a seller condition on there because it was an estate sale. Estate sales are always emotional if it's a family member representing the deceased.
Mhm.
They usually take longer and it's a lot more emotional. So, okay, what do you need? If you need time, we'll throw a seller condition on there for you to review with your lawyer if that's what the concern is. Just let me lock this down as pending so I can tell all the other buyers to screw off.
Yeah. So your buyer can just be a little bit more excited too. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
tough.
And then
Yeah.
you shared a story with me earlier about, I think you won two multiple offers in Sherwood Park. What happened there?
One was in Sherwood Park, one was in Edmonton. Sherwood Park, though, has been the challenging one, and this has been quite consistent, I think, for the last year. I had buyers in December who successfully purchased in Sherwood Park, and it took quite a few times. They went through a few multiple offers before landing one. So that was tough, but they got the home. It took a couple learning lessons for them. And this one, most recently, they went through five, and we never lowballed. We always went above. They were fully prepared, but it's just next level competition. And then, of course, a few weeks ago, as you were saying too, with just less inventory means more buyers on the same properties who all want to buy, who are all willing to buy. And I do think that some Sherwood Park famous agents have a similar way of going about things where they slightly underlist the home to draw lots of attention, and there's really no intention of selling it at that price. And we all know it's not going to go at that price, but no longer is 20K over acceptable,
Which
unfortunately.
sounds insane.
It
Like,
is absolutely insane, but it's just, I would say, start depending on the property, of course, and depending on the buyer's interest in the property and their financial capability, everything, like obviously all of those factors, how much they love the property. It just means not to think about the asking price even anymore. Just assume that it's going to be at least 20 over, and then start your kind of thinking process there. So we always ask, at what point, like our famous thing to ask is, at what point, at what offer point of losing the home would you be disappointed? And usually we think about that from the asking price, starting at the asking price and going from there. But I would say if you even want to entertain it at all, start from 20 above and then go from there. And it sounds insane, and I don't like saying that, but it's
mm,
just the reality. And unfortunately, we do have to be the bearer of reality. Like we have to be the bearer of that news. But we did find one go over. This one we were lucky on. It did go pending once, and the buyers were wasting their time. So they were even in more of a hurry. And because we were very consistent, it was a multiple again for the second time. But the sellers really favored and worked with us to get to where they wanted to be. So I'd say one of the things for sure is just be very open, very honest with the sellers, and stay in touch with them consistently with the seller's agent. Is that agent is going to appreciate that consistency and the constant touch points, because they will know that you are a serious agent who is
mm.
representing a serious buyer. And for the buyers, it's very important to show that seriousness and be prepared to show. Yeah.
Yeah, talking
Um,
about the asking price, Ashley on our team, she phrases it very well when she talks to her buyers and they're like, "Oh, what number should we put in?" We can't really answer that question for you, but what she says is whatever the number is, that if it sold for $1 more, you'd be like,
mhm,
"Okay, good for them. That wasn't the property for me." But if it sold for $1 less, you'd be like kicking yourself, like, "Oh, I should have just pushed
exactly.
myself." So,
Yeah,
what is that number that you'd be willing to lose at?
exactly. And there are methods like, I think everyone on our team uses the escalation clause. I haven't received any negative feedback from sellers about an escalation clause, and I put one on every single offer lately just because. But I think a year ago, I'm still a little, can I tell like a little story? I won't say
Yeah.
who it was, but I will just defend the escalation clause. So if anyone is anti-escalation clause, some people like to call it a bully clause. For those who don't know, an escalation clause is just something that we can add to a purchase. So if someone agrees to purchase a home, let's say 375, their original offer or their starting offer will be 375, but they're going to have this escalation clause saying that they're going to go to 395 in the event of they're willing to go $1,000 above any competing offers up to a cap of 395. So their cap offer would be 395. So that means if someone else offered 385, their offer will actually read as 386. If someone offers 397, it's past the cap, so their offer is no longer valid.
I call it the
So
one up clause. That's how I
yeah,
explain it. Yep.
and so I had one agent, and it still sticks in my head. And sometimes I'm a little nervous putting it in there. It's a good practice to always call the selling agent to ask if they're comfortable with that, if the sellers would be comfortable with it. I think in this market, anything that gets more money in the seller's pocket, I don't think the seller's going to say no. I wouldn't say
Hmm.
no. Would you say no?
Nope.
But one person called it. It was an older agent, been around a little bit. So I do understand it's like a trick that we can use, but it's just being, in my opinion, if it's legal and it's smart for the seller, it's smart for your buyer, then do it. Like there's nothing bad about it. They had said that it's a lazy way of writing offers and that the buyers should just put their best money, their best offer first. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm representing the best interest of my buyer. And if they're willing to go to 395, that's amazing. But if they don't have to go to 395, then
Yeah.
why would they?
Needlessly overshoot,
Yeah.
especially
If
in this
every
market. where you
Hmm.
can, as you said, like going above list price typically starts at 20K. So like you don't know if it could go up to 50,
Yeah.
60. There are stories
Yeah.
from this past week where listings sold 60K over ask. So why
Hmm.
would I advise my client to go 60K above ask when we can put the escalation clause in to go up to 60K and
Maybe the
retain
other highest offer was only 20 over. So
exactly.
am I going to feel happy? I'm not going to feel happy about my buyer paying an extra 40K. And honestly, even representing the seller, I would feel bad for the buyer too. Obviously, my better interest representing the seller would be getting more money for the seller. That's why you work with a buyer agent and a selling agent. But if I received an escalation clause, I'd be like, hey, seller, do you want an extra $1,000? I think they'd say yes. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Anyways, I'll move
usually
on from that.
do 3 grand or 5 grand increments on escalation clauses. I usually do three.
I've also seen 1,500 over competing and over competing conditional offers and 3,000 over unconditional offers. So that's something I might start doing too,
Wait, say
because
that
then we
again?
can beat out. So an agent had added to their offer 1,500 over competing conditional offers, like with
Mm,
offers with conditions, but 3,000 over offers that had no conditions.
that's
So
smart.
yeah, that's really smart. I don't remember the agent. I should find that contract and give them kudos, but I'm definitely going to steal that sometime.
And then you said there was another one in Edmonton, Rosenthal, that you were dealing with. What happened with that one?
That one, we did have an escalation clause and she didn't have to use it. Wasn't applied.
Yay!
We offered full list price and it was very fairly priced, good condition. It was only off on market for a couple days and there were two other offers and it wasn't needed. So she didn't, I'm like, I did ask, and she said that they just liked her conditions and she had said that the escalation clause didn't need to go through. So I didn't dig in further than that. I'm just like, cool, want to get started on the whole process with my buyer, but by the sounds of it, either they were very similar or lower, or maybe they just needed 2 weeks. We had also only put 5 days of conditions because she was already approved and just wanted the condo docs reviewed. So very quick. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah,
then on the residential side, I made a video last week saying that the new first step to buying a home is failing to buy a home because of how
I
competitive it
agree.
is out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
I
I
agree.
honestly think it's now just a part of the process because you and I, we're in this industry day in, day out. We're climatized to it. But if you haven't
Hmm.
purchased a property in a long time or ever, and your realtor's like, let's go 20K over ask if you want to have a shot, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? That's not how it works.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
they're,
20K
yeah,
under. I want a
yes,
bargain.
yeah,
And that's fair. You don't know any better.
yeah.
You can't know any better. So it's honestly a part of the process when I'm working with buyers of, okay, have your fun, put your 20K below ask, just so you can learn your lesson. So it's not just me saying it, I promise. And
Hmm.
then we will lose out by a lot. And then they're actually realize, like, I had one new investor, they're putting offers in and they always wanted to go under ask, and I kept telling them like, hey, it doesn't work that way, it doesn't work that way, we're just gonna
Hmm.
lose. And finally we put an offer in and we actually went 15K above, and I told them it's most likely gonna go like 30, 35K above, but they were like, no, most we can do is 15. I'm like, fair enough, it's your money, not my decision, let's do it. And then they received 6 different offers and offer reviews at 4 o'clock. The selling agent texted me at 4:10, was like, just so you know, you're not even in the top three, so put your mind at ease, you're out of the running. I was like, okay. Which I actually liked that he did that. He didn't string us along
I
for the
do.
night.
Yeah,
But I was
yeah,
like, yeah. And I sent that message to my buyers. I was like, hey, we weren't even in the top three. And
yeah,
that's how crazy it
yeah.
is.
I will do that if I know there are multiple offers, I will just ask the agent if I know that the client is looking to like lowball or go for only asking. Be
Mm,
like, I've talked to them, I've explained the situation, but they're not willing to go above this. What do you think? And I'm not asking in a negative tone, is this a waste of time?
mm.
Um, but they'll usually tell me whether it is or not without me having to ask because they don't want to
It's a waste
have
of their time.
to. It's a waste of their time. And it's not to be like snarky or anything like that. It's just like they're just being honest
Hmm.
because, yeah, like I actually had someone view a property on the West End as well. So for people who don't know, the West End's very popular right now for lots. So probably your clients were looking for them. And he was looking just to go in like unconditional 300K. So asking, and he was just planning on doing a rent and then tear down next spring, which I understand. That would be a great price for that kind of investment. But this home was in really nice condition, and we're going to be competing with people who are looking to live in this home who actually, it was a nice house. It wasn't, yeah, the lot could be great for an infill, but yeah, so it went 60K over. And I called the agent literally right in front because I know they had presentation time and it was literally in 40 minutes. And I knew by the time I get home and everything, I'm like, am I gonna write this up or not? And I'm like, yeah, like this is what he's thinking. And the agent straight up said, HELL no, we're most likely going with 360. And I think they gave me too much information. So the fact
But
that they
good for
said
you.
that,
Yep.
but like at least they told us, and the investor was like, yeah, no, which is totally fine. We
Yeah.
don't want you to overspend on a property, whether it's for your primary or an investment. If the numbers don't work for you, they don't work for you.
Yeah.
Now there are some cases, of course, that maybe sometimes like you have to realize if the numbers don't work, they're never going to work if you're running certain variables that don't make sense
Thank you for saying that.
anymore. Yes, but for an infill, I did agree with him. I was like, yeah, you know what? It doesn't. I agree. I agree, especially because no one is going to be building right now. Most of the builders have already made their plans for this year. It's so busy. If there are any builders that are watching right now who have the ability, we're looking for people. So anyone who can start construction this spring, let us know. But from most of what I've heard, I don't know. What have you heard, Megan? Most are starting next year now. They're planning into next year.
Well, yeah, because most of them already have their builds for this year planned.
Mm,
Like they've just purchased the lot and applied for the demo permit and the building permit. So they're done for this year. Like the construction alone, like once you actually break ground and permits are approved, it's right around 10 to 12 months. So they're booked in advance. So if you do want to
yeah,
work with them, you're going to be booking a year from now.
yeah. So for his kind of picture of just it could have been a great rental property, but for his, I'm like, I agree. We'll find something that's like a little bit more of a not as nice kind of thing made because this was a very renovated property, not worth. I would be sad if they tore it down, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do want to talk about, I agree that it's a the stars have aligned approach to developing these multifamily properties. If you find a lot that fits the size requirements and that it's currently tenanted or it's vacant and can be tenanted, and then you have a midterm or short-term rental in there while you're applying for your permits, so to help with your carrying costs for those months. And then once those permits are approved, you give notice to the tenants or their term ends, they leave, and then you bulldoze the building. That is a fantastic way to do it. I love it. I approve it. But please know if you are purchasing any structure on a property with a loan, whether it is private money or from TD, CIBC, any lender, if you have a mortgage on that property and you demolish the house, that actually counts as mortgage fraud because the collateral that the lender has is both on the dirt of the land and the structure of the home. If this is your plan, that is fine, but make sure that you own the home in cash before you demolish it. Otherwise, you're going to have some really nasty lawyers coming after you.
Unless it's, I think there's some private lending and stuff, but then again, you're paying for the interest and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah,
There's ways to do
many
it,
things.
but whoever your lender is, just tell them that is your plan in the first place. Because there's ways to do it, 100%, but you just need to be
Mhm.
transparent to avoid any lawsuits or getting yourself in hot water.
Yeah, exactly. No, I had that conversation with one of my clients, and they're just, he wanted to purchase it, live in it personally. So he wasn't entirely lying. It was going to be a primary residence for a certain period of time. And yeah, I won't go down that road. I won't go too far into detail, but it was a learning process for him for sure because just looking into certain things, they wanted inspections and everything like that. And I was under the impression that they were doing private lending, not a traditional mortgage. And thankfully, I spoke to the mortgage broker. So, like, I 1000% prefer to just speak directly to the mortgage broker
Yep.
because there's so much that's said, and it's not that we don't trust our clients or anything like that. It's not that I don't trust my clients. It's not that I don't think they're pre-approved or anything. If they give me a pre-approval, I like trust that, I think. But there are so many things and so many conditions that might not be relayed, or it's like playing a game of telephone
Mm-hmm.
sometimes where the mortgage broker will say something and they'll say it in a way that's just not absorbed properly to clients because they don't hear that kind of lingo every
Jargon.
single day. So to transfer that to us, sometimes we don't get the whole picture. And I have encountered this a couple times where not just investment, but primary homes where they think they're able to do something. And then it's not until later that we find out that wasn't the case
Yeah.
at
And
all. And then
having
it's a
the
huge rush.
having the mortgage broker's contact information, I always ask for that because when they give it to me, I'll reach out to them and be like, hey, just so you know, I'm the realtor representing Bob. And I see here you pre-approved them for 450. I just want to make sure that's good. And I see your interest rate is here. That's the numbers we're going to be running with. Can we stick with that? They'd be like, yeah, as long as you're getting X for rent if it's a rental property, because there's conditions on the
Mm-hmm.
pre-approval. If you can get
Mm-hmm.
450 if you're raking in 2 grand a month on rent, that'll affect it. But another
Mm-hmm.
really valuable thing is with how active the market is right now. I will call the mortgage broker right before we submit an offer. I'll say, hi, we need to shrink the conditional period as much as we can while obviously still giving you enough time to make sure we're still dotting our I's and crossing our T's. I don't want to rush your work because you're dealing with my clients hundreds of thousands of dollars. That should not be rushed. So,
Yeah.
how long do you need to get this done properly? But also in the shortest amount of time. And it's usually 5 business days is the brokers I'm working with. They'll always say
Mm-hmm.
more the better, which I agree with. But typically it's 5 business days. But I've spoken to some, they're like, give me 3 business days because I've done a lot of legwork up front. I'm like, oh, yeah, nice. And then other
Yeah.
people, they're like, I need at least 10 business days. We're really backlogged.
Mm-hmm.
If you put 5 business days, we're going to need an extension and your deal might fall
Mm-hmm.
through. I was like, okay, that's very good to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, the quickest approval I've ever seen. And I literally replied to them. I'm like, I've never gotten confirmation that we can remove a condition that fast. One day, it was the next day. And I'm just like,
Was it
what?
a
So
primary or an investment?
a primary. But I was also a little nervous because it was an older home. I had a
Mhm.
client who was looking for century homes, and usually some banks will ask for appraisals and just to confirm that the house isn't falling apart, that there's like
So I know
mortgage thing.
why.
Yeah.
So the reason is if it's a primary homeowner that's purchasing it and they're putting less than 20% down, it's CMHC insured. So
Mhm.
if the buyer defaults on payments, the lender, let's say CIBC, will go after CMHC and say, hey, give me my money to pay this out because the buyer defaulted. But if it's over 20% down, it's not an insured loan and you have to get an appraisal because the bank doesn't have the insurance on there if you default. So they have to make sure that property is worth 450 in case you flake out on them. They need to be able to retain their money. So if it's a primary, you typically don't need an appraisal as long as it's 20% or under. If it's
If it's that like
20%
first
down or
time
over.
home or anything
Yeah.
has the mortgage insurance. That's so funny is I totally knew that, but I never actually made the connection because
Yeah.
yeah, the fastest approvals I've ever had are first time home buyers or people who are
And
taking
that's
advantage of
why.
that. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I actually
Yeah.
there's a file I'm working on right now or pending, and I did just that. I called the lender, it was TD. I was like, hey, just need to know how long you need to get this done while also making it as tight as possible. He's like, 4 to 5 business days. I can get them pre-approved, like the purchaser's capacity approved within 1 to 2 days, no problem. But give me 4 to 5 days just to be safe. I'm like, okay. That was like person A representing TD, and then person B reached out to me later that night, and they're like, "Why did you only give us 4 days? We have to get an appraisal." I was like, "Oh, I was told like 1 to 2 days, but 4 to 5 just to be safe." She's like, "I can get them like the client approved right away, but I can't get the project approved until we get an appraisal for this reason."
Mhm.
It's like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah, and then you hope that the appraiser can get in there really quick and yeah, more wheels turning at that point.
Yeah, we should
Yeah.
tread into multifamily territory here. So both you and I closed or went firm on multifamily deals last week. pre-construction. Mine was an eight unit. Yours was a 9 unit. Yours was one-upping me, I swear.
No, no, no. We'll take turns. You got to
Yeah,
do
exactly.
10
We'll just
next.
be
Yeah.
one-upping each other. But with the CMHC MLI Select changes that have happened, it's caused a lot of uproar. I know my deal was postponed because of it. Was your deal postponed because of it?
No, not because of that. From my understanding, they had finished their financing talk a while ago. From my understanding, they had just go understood that by the time is this specific one that went firm last week won't actually be done until December or January. So they knew right from the beginning that there's going to be a risk that
Hmm.
the CMHC rules that applied a month ago when they first went pending may not apply in December. Now, they probably won't do the official MLI Select application until September or
Yep.
October, depending on how on schedule the builder is. So they had just looked at other options, like more traditional, like without the MLI Select. And they're just aware that if in the case that MLI Select doesn't work, they have other options that they're going to go through with it regardless, kind of
I'm
thing.
curious, what was the purchase price and community of your building?
This one's in West Jasper Place and it's 2.23 million.
Mine was an 8 unit, so yours I assume has a garage suite on it, which will make it a bit more
Yes.
expensive. Mine
Yeah.
is up in Lauderdale, so just a little bit north side there, and we sold for 1.985, no garage
That's
suite.
pretty. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
that's the
Yeah.
only 8 unit available we could find that wasn't pushing that 2 mil. Like we came up very close to it,
Yeah.
but that's the only one we could find that was below 2 million. So we're like,
And
let's
that
lock it
one
down.
will be completed in the summer, you said, right?
August. Yeah, I think closing's
Yeah.
August 13th or something like that.
So they're a little bit further ahead. I think the more we progress, like the prices are just going to rise because
Oh, I'm already seeing it.
they're expecting. I'm I'm just going to say I would be surprised if I saw another eightplex under two. But I don't think we won't see an eightplex under two. That's
I don't
brand new
think so.
build for 2026.
Hmm.
I'd be surprised. Unless it was in a different community and
Yeah,
maybe
like
they
it was
had
in
different
Macaulay or something.
finishings. Yeah, and maybe the finishings aren't like quartz and
Mm.
all that, like nothing like which isn't a bad thing. It's different, just different tenants maybe and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be difficult to find. Just so everyone, if anyone's in the market, that's where the pricing will be.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
usually say 8 units will be right around 2.2, give or take 100,000, depending on the
Mhm.
location. But I mentioned in my last video, I saw an 8 unit in Holyrood, beautiful location, for 2.5. Like
New,
that's the most
obviously.
expensive one I've seen is 2.5 for 8 units. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I got distracted. Changes to CMHC MLI Select. So what happened
Yes.
there is CMHC played a sneaky little game where they changed the rules in the middle without posting notice or giving an effective as of X date. So you used to be able to get a blanket mortgage on single family homes as long as they were side by side touching lots and it was at least 5 doors or 5 doors plus. So you could get three suited single family homes for a total of 6 units that are side by side and then get a blanket mortgage to cover all of them, which was really awesome. But they have since shut that down, saying this isn't why we created this program. We want density, not just more housing. We want more housing on the same amount of land. So they didn't specify what the criteria was. Now we know that. I had to extend conditions 3 weeks on my Lauderdale property until we got confirmation because we didn't want to gamble my buyer's $100,000 on a hunch that we were okay. Yeah, we were waiting for confirmation on that. And I do know another agent I'm friends with, they have a client who bought 5 single family suited properties, but now that this has been shut down, now they have to liquidate the other three or reassign the other three because they can't afford to buy all 5 now.
Hmm.
So they changed the rules of the game. As far as I know, as long as it's the standard townhome structure, they're side by side, all on one title, you should be fine. I do know they haven't gotten 100% confirmation if it applies for properties with garage suites or not, because that is a detached structure. We're
Hmm.
assuming it's going to be okay since it's all on one lot while on one title. But that one, we're still like 50-50 on. I have another pending deal
Yeah.
like that. I think it's a 9 unit, and there's a garage suite on there. And the lenders, hey, I can't give you 100% confirmation. I think we're going to be okay, but I don't want to gamble your client's deposit until we know for sure.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it's not because it's not like yeah, it's like it's just a secondary suite and it's not taking up any more space. It's like the garage is taking up the space and it's
Mm-hmm.
on top of it, just making the best of that space even more. But I guess we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's frustrating the way they went about it because back in June they did it right. They changed the energy efficiency requirements. You used to be able to get all 100 points from energy efficiency. Now you can only get 80 points, but they did it right. They're like, if you have already submitted your application by X date, which is like a couple weeks from now, we'll grandfather your application in and honor the criteria. And then after that
mhm.
date, it's a no-go, which fine. You gave us notice, you gave us criteria of what applies, what doesn't, get your applications in or miss out. But they changed the rules mid-game this time, and a lot of people were
Yeah.
panicking. Like, we're talking about millions of dollars here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem with this. And I've had to say to clients many times is just like, not just with the MLI Select program, but even just things going on in Edmonton and different changes and different ideas of sales. A big one right now has been buying pre-build packages, but not straight from the builder. So you're buying from the seller. You have no
Hmm.
contract with the builder directly. Obviously, when representing the buyer and being the buyer yourself, you want to make sure that you're still protected so that you know what you're buying because you're buying a project that doesn't exist yet if it's pre-build. So you need to have verification that everything's going to be built the way you're told it's going to be built. So you need to have so many amendments to a contract of a pre-existing because you're buying something that's pre-existing by the time you actually close on it, even though in fact it is actually a new build, but you're not buying from the builder. The seller's buying from the builder and you're buying from the seller and just no one's inhabiting it between those times. So it's just like that's been something that's been like a slow process because lawyers are still learning about that. They're still learning about MLI Select. The mortgage brokers are still learning about MLI Select. There's no for sure, there's not any certainty with these new programs.
I think that sums it up. We went through the market stats and then we talked a little bit about stories and what we're seeing both in the prices, the activity, conditions, escalation clauses. We went through a lot of really good stuff here. Thank you very much for sharing your time with me, Aimee. If somebody
Thanks
would
for having
like
me.
to, yeah, if somebody would like to reach out to you, how can they do so?
They can reach out on Instagram. I think that's the social I am most on. So definitely send an Instagram message. You can find me on Calvin Realty or you can text me. Megan can tag me, I guess, on whatever program this ends up on.
Yeah, I'll put all the contact information for both Aimee and myself in the description below for people. Awesome. Thank you very much, Aimee. That was such a pleasure.
You too. Thank you so much. I'd love to do this again.
Awesome. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.